All right, everyone, it's time for something really, really funny, and it comes from actually Newsweek, which sort of sidelines itself when it comes to being like on the forefront of political discussion lately. Nobody really mentions them as much. It's basically, oh, Fox is great because Muck Carlson or Sean Hannity or something. If you're a Trump fan or Breitbart or Drudge, or if you hate him, you're on the other side, the alt-left or whatever. Like, oh, CNN is our savior, MSNBC is so great, I love the New York Times and the Atlantic. And Newsweek sort of left out, but they they tweeted out one hell of a funny story today. And it was essentially declaring that, oh, don't worry, Hillary Clinton can still become president. You see, there's a simple way for that to happen, according to Newsweek. It's perfectly logical. And this is actually, the original write-up was from October, and this was suggested. And it was laughable then, and it's laughable now. It's not going to actually happen. But they took it and they recycled it because I guess it was a slow news day. Trump didn't make any racist comments, so-called, according to the Wall Street Journal or AP or something. So Newsweek had nothing else to talk about politically. So they scratched their heads for a moment. They said, oh, we'll call up that one fucking hack that said months ago that Hillary Clinton could still theoretically become president despite losing horribly to Donald Trump. See, here's the simple way in which this is prescribed. Step number one, Mueller has to determine that there was like Russian collusion, so Trump ends up stepping aside or being removed from office. Step two, and this is another magical part because, we don't even have the Mueller investigation's full reporting yet. Step two is even more magical, which is that Mike Pence also magically either steps aside or is removed. And step three is that Paul Ryan, now the acting president of the United States, says, well, basically he stole the election, so that means his opponent becomes the president. So Hillary Clinton with VP Tim Kaine, I guess, begin ruling the country. Yes, this is perfectly logical. Paul Ryan, who is an Ayn Rand objectivist, is going to hand the reins of the country over to the other political party without reason, when, by the way, he could just serve as president himself because he wasn't part of the Trump campaign and was actually an opponent of it for some time. He was like a Marco Rubio fan, if I remember correctly. He waffled between liking Cruz and Rubio. He wasn't really a Trumpite, and he never will be. He's not really aligned with Trump. I'm not sure exactly why Mike Pence has to be shoved aside. Honestly, Paul Ryan, in such a position, could put forward just about anybody he wants. Putting forward Hillary Clinton, yes, I'm sure that Paul Ryan wishes to start the second Civil War by alienating some tens of millions of hardened right-wingers with a lot of guns. I'm sure that this makes perfect sense in Newsweek land. It makes perfect sense in Clinton fan land. But then again, we've got to understand we're dealing with people here who don't quite play with a full deck. We've got to understand that these are people that still make fanfic of Hillary winning, that declare she won the popular vote, therefore, it's the worst coup in human history that Donald Trump is in that office because he's not entitled to it because, the Electoral College magically doesn't exist as prescribed by law. They make up all sorts of excuses for why Hillary Clinton should be in that position. Well, it's one thing to say, hey, I voted for Hillary Clinton, I'm bummed that Trump won. It's another thing to self-delude everybody who's reading your rag magazine, Newsweek, into thinking that there's actually still a chance of seeing a Hillary Clinton presidency. It's cheap clickbait. This is just a cheap form of bullshit, nonsense clickbait. Newsweek knows it. They put this title up. The first time they put it up, it goes viral because the Clinton fans are like, oh yeah, see, not all hope is lost. There's still that one little glimmer of chance that if Mueller cans Trump and Pence steps down, that Paul Ryan we might be able to convince him to do the right thing and give us President Hillary Clinton. Trust me, by the way, I'm sure that even the Democrats wouldn't like the idea, and I'll tell you why. They'd want somebody else. They don't want the first female president to have to be appointed by the other party. Trust me when I say that. The Democrats wouldn't even probably accept it. They'd probably tell Hillary Clinton, if he tries to put you forward, we're not voting for you. It's not going to happen. Congress is not going to assent to you being the president. They'd rather deal with a perpetual 2-year-long single lame duck Paul Ryan term as interim president of the United States that nobody likes. Honestly, they'd probably rather deal with that. By the way, can I also tell people something that's a little bit more ominous with regards to the Mueller stuff? Be careful what you wish for if it does happen. I give a 99% chance Trump escapes unscathed from the Mueller stuff. I think that there's a good chance Mueller doesn't even come out with his final findings for some years to come. That it'll be basically a bullshit investigation. If he does, I think he'll find that Trump did nothing wrong, that other people around him did, but that there's no direct connection. So nothing impeachable. If, though, Trump were to be impeached tomorrow and removed from office or step down, what do you think would happen to our economy? I think it would have a little bit of a problem. I think it would break the consumer confidence and send the markets plunging, and there'd be some big problems. I also think that the level of social alienation among some millions of people who are convinced Trump is more than a mild reformer like I am, I think their reaction might be quite violent. I think there might be quite a bit of a problem there. You might have some instability going on in certain parts of the country. You might even have open warfare in some cases. That's not an exaggeration. It's not a sci-fi and fantasy situation. It's not like maybe Richard Nixon, who, retires in disgrace with no approval. Trump has a very hardened core fan base of about a third of the U.S. population. It's actually surprising. You've got to understand. It's surprising to me that his support is actually, considering the browbeating he takes on a day-to-day basis, actually as high as it is, regardless of the economy, and I'll tell you why. Because a third of the, 40% roughly, of the voting public supported Trump, 45%. Of course, there was also a large third-party turnout, and then a little less than that for Hillary Clinton during the election. But the voting public is still not the entire public. The rest of the people who are apolitical, even a lot of them, numerically speaking, statistically speaking, they have to support Trump, which is actually odd because they didn't even vote. It's actually slightly odd that his approval would be, as I calculate, somewhere in the low 40s or upper 30s. I don't think it's the 32% approval, record lows. No, some of those polls appear to be cooked, in all honesty. And I don't trust them. And then, of course, when people realize that they're saving money and that their jobs are coming back, that'll probably eke its way up to the mid or upper 40s, roughly where Obama was when he sought re-election. So the Democrats should be 10 times more worried than they appear to be. Like I saw another poster, the Democrats have flipped the 36th Republican seat since the election. So fucking what? Doesn't matter. Obama won re-election after the Tea Party tidal wave, and you're not gonna get a blue wave because of the structure of the Senate races that are even up for re-election. It'd be almost impossible. Trump would have to be in the 20s somewhere in approval to drag down all those races that ultimately take place on the state level. So Newsweek is full of shit. It's bullcrap, basically. And I don't understand what their fixation is beyond, hey, we're going to clickbait the Clinton fans that still read us because we're going to titillate them, we're going to wank them off a little bit, play with their taffy twangers, and then they're going to spread the article around. And then the Trump fans will see it, they'll spread it around too, only to criticize it, but they're still looking at ads. Because, for some reason there are still people out there that don't use ad blocker. That's about all. Peace out.